There's no question that the war on poverty that Lyndon Johnson declared 50 years ago Wednesday has made very important advances. There's just no question. I mean, 1963, 51% of African Americans were in poverty and about 25% had graduated from high school.
Certain factions in the American political machine have been telling us now for more than 50 years about the war on poverty. They will tell us it's being won, despite others keeping them from their task. And they will seek to muddy the factual waters with stats and one-liners with zero fact behind them. The war on poverty, in the eyes of many, is being lost, specifically when it comes to Black America. And the time is now to call out the frauds and seek real answers. The numbers are sobering in so many ways when we hear about the war on poverty and, again, where it's going, how we're able to get to it, and if indeed it is being won. Because the poverty rate for the first time since the year 2006 recently declined from 15% in 2012 to 14.5% last year. But once again, as it is with so many things, the numbers don't tell the entire story. The poverty rate, though, is still stubbornly high. Remember, this is 12.5% in 2007, the year before the economy tanked. African Americans are the ones who suffer the worst. And again, there are those telling us that the war on poverty has made it better. Blacks had the nation's highest poverty rate at 27.2% in 2013, followed by 10.5% for Asians, 9.6% for non-Hispanic whites. Hispanics were the only group to see a significant decline in the poverty rate. They went from 25.6% in 2012 to 23.5% in 2013. It is the third straight year that stagnant earnings showed statistically no change whatsoever. Is this a war that is being won, or is this a war, quite frankly, that Black America is being conned about? It is a pleasure to welcome back to MidPoint, Director of African American Outreach, dedicated civil rights activist, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., also leader at RestoreTheDream2014.com, Dr. Alveda King joins us. Dr. King, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's wonderful to join you. Hello, everyone.
We have had this discussion here on this show many times, and again, we are now talking about it. The poverty rate in America. There are those on the left who will say, we have been fighting this war now since the 1960s and we are winning. But there are those on the right and even on the left who will say, it's not even close. We're not even winning. We haven't even made a dent yet. But people want to know, why are we here still 50, 60 years later still discussing the fact that this war goes on and not a lot of advances have been made?
Well, during my uncle's lifetime, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., there was a war on poverty. After he was killed, my father, Reverend A.D. King, continued to walk along in that same war until he was also killed. That was 1968 and 1969. But what we have discovered in America, every successful attempt to combat poverty has involved putting Americans back to work. Americans want to work, and that includes African American people. Now, our unemployment rate is 35%. That's, twice any other average for any other ethnic group in the nation. And so when people are not allowed to work, they begin to have other efforts. And so to think that there could be enough welfare to take care of all Americans who are not working, that's not a practical model. That's why at RestoreTheDream2014.com, we have some very practical solutions. If you offer the private sector of business and earners in America to have maybe some tax benefits and some incentive programs for hiring people, training people and hiring people on entry level, good educational programs, people need now to be educated for 21st century employment, and that's going to include more knowledge of technology, changes in science and math and reading and the culture. So all of these efforts, putting America back to work, is the solution for ending the war on poverty. And then to stop trying to muzzle people in the marketplace, in the workplace, and in the town squares. People should be able to pray and call on God. That little widow who can depend on nothing, she thinks, except that check. She needs to be able to call on God as well.
Dr. King, I'm going to stop you there momentarily. We were a little late getting to you here right now. We are up against a hard break. Stand by. We are going to come back. talk about this more with Dr. Alveda King. Plus, also, we want to discuss those who would seek to drive anyone and everyone to violence in Ferguson and beyond just to satisfy their own ego. And later on this hour, a very hard question for Catholics. It demands an immediate answer. That and so much more coming up right here on MidPoint, where we question everything.